Sagittarius 8. Rocks and things forming therein. Weird image, isn't it? Rocks seem dead. Most people think that they're not alive. Esoteric teachings would have it differently, that all things have consciousness. And in the case of rocks, we have evidence that rocks support life. Algae form on the surface of rock, and that begins a cycle of developing of complex forms of life. So rocks actually must be alive to support life. And the apparent kind of metaphor here is that we have similar situations in life where we feel we're rock solid. We're solidly bound into a situation that doesn't seem to be moving. And it usually has to do with apparent paradox, where you want two things equally much, but they oppose each other on some way, some level. They don't seem to be able to reconcile at all. You might want to be somebody who experiences romantic freedom on the one hand, but you also want family and kids on the other. Or you might want family and kids and also an ardent career path. Or you might find that the beliefs of one religion, which are counter to the beliefs of another religion, both stimulate your imagination in a pleasant and heart-centered way. And you can't reconcile these paradoxes. And so you're caught. It seems not true, but you feel to be caught up in this sense of paradox. So this teaching is all about encouraging us to hold paradox unresolved within us. So if two things cannot be reconciled, we just cannot square the circle here. Just wait. Just hold them both. Don't make a decision against either. Just hold them both. Wait. And in the same way that rocks take a very, very long time to support the eventual development of the life form that it does support, this can be true of some situations. Now, when we look back on our lives from a certain age, we can see that a period of time when we were really, really caught up and it seemed like nothing was moving and we felt frustration and confusion and lack of get up and go because it was hard and we just had to suffer the consequences of having made certain decisions or being in certain situations. We look back and we see that period of time was working on a very much deeper level within us and undertaking a transformational shift on the deepest level, unconsciously. Certain processes are, of course, the bedrock of who we are as it changes, because we always change. There is nothing within us in the physical, material plane, nothing which lasts very long. And even on the plane of spirit, the soul, whose existence is guaranteed throughout eternity, changes its qualities at some point, or actually through some process. And that's exactly the issue here. It isn't a point of change, it's a process of change. Everything changes, and some things change really slowly indeed. And we just don't know it's happening. It's unconscious. And what we're discussing in this degree is that level of alchemy, where lead is transformed into gold. So the lead is our heaviness of being, our stubbornness to be what we've always been, this ego attachment to the past. Notwithstanding the past is unpleasant and painful, we still want to hold on to it because it's ours and that's what we do. And yet, certain things in life, and especially if you're astrologers, you'll know that Pluto transits and Neptune transits mostly, will engineer shifts on this very, very deep level. And we go through a process of transformation. We become something that was really very different indeed to what we were before. And it's got its foundations on a very profound level of unconscious beingness. In order for that process to occur, for us to go through these deep shifts, we have to hold on to paradox for an uncomfortably long period of time, typically. When you know that something's not wrong, you have to hold on to it and do some work to hold it in your life. If something's wrong, get rid of it immediately. If you know it's wrong, just immediately walk away from it. Immediately. If you don't, then you're at risk, actually. However, in some situations which are not wrong, but not comfortable, not reconciled to other aspects of your life, then get a bit tougher, man up to the job, as they say. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. In other words, until such time as life is tough, the toughest part of you cannot be developed. And although the toughest part of you is not always graceful, not always beautiful, not always popular, social skills might be at a low ebb, nevertheless, that toughest part of you is the strength upon which you depend for your security, your very existential security. To be alive requires strength, and that means we have to have a tough part of us. And this tough part is trained into us through life circumstances, which are not the ones we choose. These are the ones that we do choose them, but it's an unconscious choice. We attract situations that force us to strengthen our beingness in order that we can take on the next dimensional level of challenge. It's all intended on some level that we face up to these hard things in life, the rocks of life. It's not an accident. It's not bad luck, not misfortune. It's not wrong. And it's not something to duck either, to avoid at all costs, which is the popular attitude for most people. It's the thing to actually strengthen up for. Just get on and do it. Hold on to these difficult situations until they resolve themselves, which they must. The patience it takes to see it to the end of its process develops. You need greater patience to cope with some circumstances. The determination it takes needs to be developed. These qualities that are Saturn qualities, typically, they're gritty, these hard qualities. And they're not glamorous at all, but they are profoundly real, profoundly useful. It's the gold that you carry forward beyond this life. That's what you're developing through these paradoxical, hard situations. Very often in your 20s, you get called up into a career, a vocation or something, and you got to work pretty hard to get the exams and go through the early stages of establishing yourself within the hierarchy. And this is a true challenge for many people in their 20s, typically, perhaps their 30s. It's hard, really hard. And yet, if you don't go through that and get on top of the heat, then most assuredly you'll become somebody else's heat. They'll step all over you. That's how it works. That's what it's like in life. We have to actually grit up and take ourselves to a level where we can see the life in something which appears dead. This is the real mystery. If you look at a rock and it seems dead, yeah, you can dismiss it. But if you've actually got this level of consciousness and you work with it, you grind it down, you turn it into sand, and then the sand becomes productive for growing food. You work with any situation in your life to make it something which is going to be profoundly useful for you. And then you start to look for this rock-like aspect of every situation that you come across. So you become a little disinterested in that which is trivial and shallow. It's just not got the grit that you know is worth working for. Because when you've actually learned how to turn a dead situation into something which is alive, then your life is always going to be dynamic. Nothing can stop you because you just deal with rocks and boulders in the road in front of you. You know what to do. You can either go around them or work them down to nothing, or you can just wait until the weather erodes them, metaphorically speaking. And we can do this in life situations, developing determination and persistence and patience and just dealing with gritty situations. This means that your life is always going to be dynamic and free.